Representation of Group 7, Rikidan Aldrin, Tolibas Irene, Trinidad Sam Samuel, Umitin Kenneth, Vicente Shelo, Abad Mark Neil, and Ablog Nico.
CSR framework, or corporate social responsibilities, means that business should not only focus on earning profit, but also act ethically and contribute to well-being of society and the environment. It's about being responsible, making sure that company actions are sustainable and beneficial to the communities. In short, CSR helps align a company goals with the greater good para sabay umunlad ang business at ang lipunan. In the Philippines, CSR is deeply connected to our Filipino values like bayanihan or community spirit and pakikipagkapwa-tao, which means caring for others. Both government and private sectors encourage company to practice CSR. Common focus area includes education, environmental protection, livelihood program, healthcare, and disaster relief. So CSR in our country is really about giving back and helping improving people's lives. Philippine CSR framework is based on ideas of inclusive growth and sustainable development, meaning progress that benefits everyone and protect future generation. It has three main pillars. First is economic responsibility, which means practicing fair trade and ethical businesses. Second is social responsibility, which focus on employee welfare and supporting communities. And third is environmental responsibility, which ensure the sustainable of natural resources. This framework also supported by government policies like the SEC Memorandum Circular Number 19, Series of 2019, which provides sustainability reporting guidelines for companies. Through this, businesses are guided to be transparent and social responsible. What is ISO 26000 or ISO 26000? It is an international standard that provides guidance on how organizations can be socially responsible. It was released by the International Organization for Standardization or ISO noong 2010. Unlike other ISO standards, hindi siya for certification, meaning companies don't get certificate for following it. Instead, it gives principle and best practice para maging responsible and ethical ang operation ng isang company. In short, ISO 26000 helps organization do business not just for profit but also for the people and the planet. ISO 26000 covers the 7 main areas of or core subject. The first is organizational governance, which means good leadership and decision making. The second is human rights, ensuring fair treatment for everyone. The third is labor practices, focusing on safe, fair, and working condition. The fourth is environment, which means minimizing negative environmental impacts. The fifth is fair operating practices, ensure honesty and transparency in business. The sixth is consumer issues, protecting consumer rights and safety. And lastly, community involvement and development, where companies help local communities grow and improve. So these the 7 areas guides business to be socially responsible in all aspects. Sa Pilipinas, ISO 26000 is being promoted by the Department of Trade and Industry or DTI and the Philippine Council for NGO Certification PCNC as CSR guide. It helps local companies apply ethical, sustainable practices. For example, business are encouraged to follow the same principle in supporting the Sustainable Development Goals or SDG of the United Nations. So, through ISO 26000, companies in the Philippines can align their CSR program with international standards while addressing local community needs. These are the example of CSR initiative in the Philippines. Number one is the SM Foundation. SM Foundation focuses on education and disaster response, like scholarship and relief operation. The second is Ayala Foundation. It supports community development and gives access to technology for students and small communities. And the third one is San Miguel Corporation. It invests in environmental protection and livelihood programs for farmers and local residents. These examples show how big companies in the Philippines integrate CSR and ISO 26000 principle in real life. The next slide is implementing the benefits of implementing CSR and ISO 26000. Implementing CSR and ISO 26000 gives many benefits. First, it builds trust between companies, communities, and the stakeholder. The second, it improves the brand image and boost employee morale kasi people want to work for a responsible company. The third is it promotes long-term sustainability and help reduce business risk. And lastly, it supports Philippine Development Plan and the UN SDG, helping both companies and the country grow together. In short, doing good is also good for the business.
So my topic is GRI, or Global Reporting Initiative. The Global Reporting Initiative is an international independent standards organization that helps business, governments, and other organizations understand and communicate their impacts on social issues such as climate change, human rights, and corruption. GRI provides the world's most widely used standards for sustainability reporting, known as the GRI standards. So here are the key components of GRI standards. First is the universal standards. It serves as the foundation guideline for all sustainability reports and used by all organizations. Universal standards comprise three main standards. First, the foundation. It is the standard starting point for organizations using GRI standards. Explain how to use the GRI standards. It sets out the principles for defining report content and quality, ensuring that the sustainability report is accurate and reliable. Next is disclosure. Provides information about the reporting organization, covering areas such as governance, ethics, and integrity. These standards helps stakeholders understand the organization's structure, policies, and practices. Third is material topics. This standard guides organizations on how to identify, assess, and report on material topics. Number 2 is sector standards, designed for specific industries such as oil and gas, agriculture, textile, or manufacturing. Topic standards focus on specific sustainability topics such as energy use, emissions, water consumption, and labor practices. Here the core purpose of GRI, or Global Reporting Initiative. First is to promote transparency. It helps companies disclosure important info about how their activities affect people. It also builds trust with customers, investors, communities, and stakeholders by showing they take sustainability seriously. Next is encourage accountability. Makes companies take responsibility for their social, environmental, and economical impacts, encourage businesses to own up the problem and work towards solutions, facilitates comparability and benchmarking, supports better decision, facilitates communication with stakeholders, align with global sustainability goals, and drive sustainable business practices. Encourage It encourages organizations to adopt strategies and operations that are environmentally and socially responsible. It also helps negative impacts and enhance positive contribution to sustainable development. Next is the UN Sustainable Development Goals. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goals are a universal call to action and call to protect the planet and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity by the year 2030, adopted by all UN member states in 2015 as part of 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. The SDGs provide a shared blueprint for tackling the world's most pressing challenges. So the UN Sustainable Development has a total goals of 17 and their total targets are 169. Objective of the Sustainable Development Goals is to eradicate poverty and hunger, promote good health, quality education, and gender equality, ensure access to clean water, affordable energy, and decent work, reduce inequalities and tackle climate change, foster innovation, responsible consumption, and sustainable communities. Also promote peace, justice, and ensure constitution, and strengthen global partnership. So why do the Sustainable Development Goals matter? It matters because these goals are not just for government or big organizations. They address the biggest challenges we face like climate change, poverty, inequality, and injustice. They give us a clear direction to creating a better world. So what can we do? So of course, as a student, we should learn about the goals and raise awareness. Make choices that are better for people and planet, whether it's reducing waste or volunteering on.
And now we're going to talk about the green computing or the green IT. So what is green computing? Green computing or green IT is the practice of designing, manufacturing, using, and disposing of computers and related technology in an environmentally responsible and energy efficient manner to reduce negative environmental impacts. This involves developing sustainable hardware and software, optimizing energy use in data centers, promoting recycling and e-waste management, and minimizing hazardous materials throughout the technology life cycle. Energy efficiency. This includes designing energy efficient devices, using power management features, and powering data centers with renewable energy resources to reduce electricity consumption. Sustainable design and manufacturing. This focuses on using eco-friendly materials in production, reducing waste during manufacturing, and designing products that are energy efficient and have a longer lifespan. Green usage. Implementing practices like virtualization to reduce the number of servers needed and optimizing software for lower energy consumptions. E-waste management. Properly recycling and disposing of electronic devices to prevent hazardous materials from harming the environment. and the cloud computing. Utilizing cloud services can reduce the need of individual companies to maintain large, energy-intensive physical servers. For the history of green computing, the term green computing was probably coined shortly after the Energy Star program began way back in 1992. One of the first results of green computing was the sleep mode function of the computer monitors. As the concept developed, green computing began to encompass thin client solutions, energy cost, accounting, virtualization practices, e-waste, and so on. There are the objectives of green computing: reduce climate change, savings, reliability of power, computing, reduce of the use of hazardous materials. For the climate change, first and foremost, conclusive research shows that CO2 and other emissions are causing global climate and environmental damage. Preserving the planet in a valid goal because it aims to preserve life. Planets like ours that supports life are very rare. And for the savings, green computing can lead to serious cost savings over time. Reductions in energy cost servers, cooling, and lighting are generating serious savings for many corporations. Maximize energy efficiency during the product's lifetime. Promote the recyclability or biodegradability of defunct products and factory waste. Reliability of power. As an energy demands in the world go up, energy supply is declining or flat. Energy efficient system helps ensure healthy power systems. For the computing power consumption has reached a critical point. Data centers have run out of usable power and cooling due to high densities. Material recycling. Parts from outdated systems may be salvaged and recycled through certain retail outlets and municipal or private recycling. Many organizations, including some manufacturers themselves, are willing to take equipment back and recycle the components into new products. This is the pathways to green computing: design, manufacture, use and dispose of electronic components, computers, and other associated subsystems with minimal impact on the environment. So, here are the recent implementation of green computing. First is Zonbu computer. So, Zonbu computer is a energy efficient PC. Consumes just 1/3 of the power of a typical light bulb. The device ran the Linux operating system using a 1.2 GHz processor and 512 MB of RAM. Next is the Fit PC. It is designed to fit where a standard PC is too bulky, noisy, and power hungry. Fit PC draws only 5 watts consuming in a day. Less power than a traditional PC consumes in 1 hour. Sunray Thin Client. Thin clients like a Sunray consume far less electricity than conventional desktop. A Sunray on a desktop consumes 4 to 8 watts of power because most of the heavy computation is performed by a server. Suited for cost-sensitive environments such as call centers, education, healthcare, service provider, and finance. For the approaches to green computing, here are the displays. LCD displays use a CCF bulb. LED displays use an array of LEDs. LCD monitors uses 3 times less when active and 10 times less energy when in sleep mode. LCDs are up to 66% more energy efficient. LCDs are also smaller in size and weight. 21 CRT typically uses more than 120 wattage. For the algorithmic efficiency, the efficiency of algorithms is used to describe properties of an algorithm relating to how much resources it consumes. Algorithms are the base of any computing system or electronic device. Each and every computer chip has a certain algorithm that allows it to complete its function. Even though these chips are small, they use a lot of power. Here are the advantages of using green computing. Number 1 is energy saving. Next, environmentally friendly, cost effective, save more money per year, can give you a tax write-off. For the disadvantages, high start-up cost, not readily available, still in experimental stage, sacrifices performance for battery life, not for everyone. So for the benefits of green computing, as I said, like the advantages, environmental protection, reduce carbon emissions, lowers energy consumption, and minimizes the use of hazardous materials. Cost savings, companies can reduce energy costs by adopting more efficient systems. Improve public image, demonstrate a commitment to corporate social responsibility, and can enhance a company reputation. The future of green computing. The plan towards green IT should include new electronic products and services with optimum efficiency and all possible options towards energy savings. That is, enterprise-wise companies are laying emphasis on moving towards eco-friendly components in computers. The use of eco-friendly sustainable components will become the norm rather than the exemptions in future. So far, consumers haven't cared about ecological impact when buying computers. They've cared only about speed and price. Green computing can lead to a lot of energy savings, reduction in emission of CO2 and CFCs, which leads to environment protection. It also leads to serious cost savings over time. The features of green computing of tomorrow would be like efficiency, manufacturing and materials, recyclability, server model, self-powering, and other trends.
E-waste management. What is e-waste management? E-waste, or electrical waste, refers to the discard electrical or electronic device with plugs or batteries such as smartphone, laptop, TV, and refrigerator. E-waste often contains hazard substances like lead, mercury, but also valuable materials like gold and copper that can be recovered if properly handled. E-waste management refers to all processes and practices involve handling e-waste from generation to final disposal or recycling, including reduction at source, collection and segregation, transportation, dismantling and treatment, or recycling, safety disposal of residue, monitoring, regulation, and enforcement, public awareness, and stakeholder engagement. E-waste situation in the Philippines. In the Philippines is among Southeast Asia's top e-waste generators, with per capita generation around 3.9 to 4 kg annually. In the 2022, the country generated about 573 million kilograms of e-waste. Only a small fraction of generated e-waste is handled via formal recycling or treatment. Much is managed via sector or ends up in landfill or dump site. Information dismantling, often without protective gear or proper facilities, expose workers and communities to health risks due to exposure to toxic substance. There is limited public awareness of hazard and proper disposal methods. Infrastructure is weak, mainly local government units or LGUs lack capacity, funding, or technical know how to manage e-waste. Legal and policy framework. The Philippines does not yet have a comprehensive specific law solely for e-waste. Existing law that partly cover the spec e-waste are RA 9003, RA 696 under DNR or EMBD, and lastly Senate Bill No. 751. What e-waste can do to us? When e-waste is not properly handled, it can release many toxic substances into the environment with various harmful effects, exposure and release mechanism. When devices are discarded, unsound recycling practice like open burning, acid leaching and manual disassembly, dumping, shredding can release up to 1,000 different chemical substances into the environment. Toxicants are released into air, soil, and dust, and water, which may then spread to surrounding communities even beyond the intimate site. Environmental and social impact. Ecosystem may become contaminated, affecting food chains and agriculture water supply. Toxicants may travel from e-waste site to distant communities, causing broader exposure. Problems and key challenges. Rapid growth of e-waste. E-waste is among the fastest growing waste streams globally. In 2022, about 62 million tons of e-waste are generated globally, yet only 22.3% was formally collected and recycled in documented system. Informal recycling, unsafe practices. A considerable portion of e-waste is handled by the informal sector using practices that do not meet environmental or health safety standard. Vulnerability of low and middle income countries. And in LMIC, there is less infrastructure, regulation, enforcement, and resources for safe e-waste management. Thus, the burdens fall more heavily on these countries. Cross-border, illegal shipment of e-waste often target countries with a weaker governance or oversight. Implementation, strategies, and role in professional practices. Extended producer responsibility. Require manufacturer, importers, distributor to take responsibility. Formalize collection and aggregation network. Set up drop-off points of e-waste collection bins. Partner LGU with accredited recycler dismantler. Accredited treatment, storage disposal facilities. Accrediting and regulating facilities that can safely dismantle treat hazard functions. Public awareness and education. Campaign to inform citizens of risks and proper disposal. Role and professional practices and ethical consideration. As engineer, environmental, or management professional, or future professional, your responsibility include design products with the sustainability in mind, ensuring waste handling in your organization meet the legal and ethical standard, advising or collaborating with LGUs communities to build sustainability system, conducting life cycle assessment and environmental impact assessment, advocating for better policy, compliance, and transparency. In social issue context, you can emphasize quality, ensuring poor Marigara communities are not disproportionately harmed by informal e-waste handling. In conclusion, e-waste management in the Philippines remains growing social environment and professional concern as the country continues to experience rapid technological advancement and digitalization. The amount of discharged electronic device also increased. However, the lack of comprehensive e-waste law limited the recycling facilities, and the low public awareness hindered the proper waste handling. Much of the e-waste still end up in formal recycling sites, exposing workers and communities to serious health environment risks.
Good day everyone. Today I'll be talking about digital inclusion. This topic focuses on how we can make sure everyone has equal access to technology and the internet. My presentation will explain what digital inclusion means, its context, importance, and examples of how it works in real life. What is digital inclusion? Digital inclusion means making sure that all people, no matter their age, income, education, or where they live, can access and use technology. It's about giving everyone a fair chance to join and benefit from the digital world we live in today. CAT. Definition of digital inclusion. Digital inclusion refers to the efforts and programs that help individuals and communities gain access to affordable internet, develop digital skills, and receive the support they need to use technology effectively. The main goal is to bridge the digital divide, which is the gap between those who have access to technology and those who don't. Context of digital inclusion. In our modern world, technology affects almost everything, from education and work to healthcare and communication. But not everyone has the same access to gadgets or to the internet. That's why digital inclusion is important. It focuses on making sure that no one is left behind in this digital age. Key elements of digital inclusion. There are 5 main elements of digital inclusion. Access, providing affordable internet and digital devices. Skills, helping people learn how to use technology properly. Affordability, making sure cost isn't a barrier. Accessibility, designing technology for everyone, including people with disabilities. And last, support, offering training and programs to help users stay connected. All of these work together to make sure technology truly inclusive. Why digital inclusion is important? Digital inclusion is important because it promotes equal opportunities for all. It allows students to learn online, helps people find jobs, supports communication, and strengthens the economy. It also helps close the digital divide between rich and poor communities, so that everyone has the chance to grow and participate in the society. Examples of digital inclusion. We have free Wi-Fi in public areas, government or LGU setting up free internet access in parks, schools or community centers, technology for persons with disabilities, digital literacy training programs, workshops or community classes that teach people how to use computers, smartphones and online platforms, gadget and internet support for students, schools or organizations lending tablets, laptops, or providing mobile data for online learning. Digital inclusion can be seen in many real-life examples. For instance, when the government provides free Wi-Fi in public places, it helps citizens stay connected even without personal internet. Another example is the use of assistive technologies like screen readers for persons with disabilities, so they can also access digital platforms. Digital literacy programs teach people how to use computers and smartphones properly, especially in rural communities. We also see schools providing gadgets or internet support for students to continue their online learning. Lastly, e-government services allow people to process documents and payment online, saving time and effort. All of these examples show how digital inclusion helps everyone become part of the digital world. In conclusion, digital inclusion isn't just about having gadgets or internet. It's about empowering people and making sure everyone can be part of the digital world. By promoting access, skills, and affordability, we can create a more connected and equal society. That is all. Thank you.
Ethical AI, biases mitigation, explainability, and accountability. Now, what is ethical AI? As artificial intelligence or AI systems become increasingly integrated into our daily life, powering decisions in healthcare, education, finance, and law, enforcement, and ethical implications of their use have come under intense scrutiny. The concept of ethical AI aims to ensure that these systems are designed, developed, and deployed in a way that aligns with human values, fairness, and social responsibility. Three core principles of ethical AI is bias mitigation, in explainability, and accountability are essential to foster trust and ensuring just outcomes. Now, as stated, bias mitigation. Understanding bias mitigation in AI. Understanding bias in AI. AI bias arises when algorithms produce systematically unfair or prejudiced results due to biased data, model design, or training processes. These biases can originate from examples of historical data that reflects existing social inequalities, sampling biases where the training data does not represent the real world population. Algorithmic bias resulting from how data is weighted or processed. Methods for bias mitigation. Diverse and representative datasets, ensuring that training data reflects varied demographic and perspective helps reduce skewed results. Bias detection and auditing tools. Techniques such as fairness matrix, confusion matrix analysis, and adversarial testing can identify hidden biases kaya ginagamit natin sila. Fairness aware algorithm where includes algorithmic designs to equalize outcomes across demographic groups such as reweighing our adversarial debiasing. And lastly, human oversight. Incorporating human review in AI decision pipelines provides an ethical checkpoint for potential biases. And the importance of mitigation. Without effective bias mitigation, AI can perpetuate discrimination, undermine credibility, and cause real-world harm, especially in sensitive domains such as hiring, criminal justice, or crediting scores. Next, explainability. The need for explainable AI. Explainability refers to the ability of an AI system to make its reasoning process transparent and understandable to humans. As AI models, particularly deep learning networks, grow more complex, their decision making becomes increasingly opaque. Explainable AI bridges these gaps by allowing users to understand why and how particular output was generated.
Approaches to explainable AI. First is model transparency, designing inherently interpretable models such as decision trees, rule-based system, or linear regression. Next is post hoc explanations. Techniques like LIME, or local interpretable model agnostic explanation, and Shapley additive explanations provide insights into how specific features influence a prediction. And last, visualization tools. Saliency maps and feature importance graphs make complex neural network decisions more intuitive. Next is yung benefits of explainability. Explainability fosters trust, regulatory compliance, and ethical integrity. It enables stakeholders, developers, users, and yet regulators to detect errors and prevent misuse, and ensures fairness in decision making. Next is yung accountability. Defining AI accountability. Accountability ensures that clear responsibility is assigned for AI decisions and their outcomes. It involves mechanisms for insights, transparency, and redress when AI systems cause harm. Strategies for accountability. First is governance frameworks. Establishing ethical guidelines, documentation, and reporting standards for AI use. Audit trails. Keeping logs of model training data, parameters, and decision outputs to trace issues when they arise. Next is human-in-the-loop systems. Maintaining human authority over critical decisions prevents AI from making irreversible or harmful errors. And last, legal and policy measures. Governments and organizations must enforce accountability through regulations such as the EU AI Act and the OECD AI Principles. Next is the roles of organizations. Organizations must foster a culture of ethical responsibility through training, internal review boards, and cross-disciplinary collaborations among engineers, ethicists, and policymakers. So, yun lang po yung report. Thank you.